It's time now to answer some of your business questions. The first one comes from the owner of a small business accounting firm.
We have 3 different services. So when people refer business to us for one service, they tend to think of us just for that service. How do we open their mind and get them to think of us for the other services that we provide as well?
I think that's a great question. How do you upsell to them?
You know, it's funny. If you have people who are referring for you, I think you should thank your lucky stars. If you have partners who are willing to say, okay, this is a service, go for it. You can either have them promote your highest margin service, or you can have different service providers promote other services. Then when you get the customers in and they become raving fans, then you do the marketing job and you tell them about the other 3 services because, you know, otherwise it's kind of lazy and greedy, don't you think?
Well, I mean, how do you, though? How do you then tell them, if the services are kind of different, how do you get them to think of you in this way and not just this way?
Well, make it really easy for them. This is a great reason to pick up the phone and call them and share stories, really colorful, illustrative stories about how these services have helped customers, all the better if they're customers that are actually germane to that area. If you've got case studies on your website, link to it, add information to your blog, the more persistently the people who refer hear about these new services, the more likely that they are to be top of mind and to give you business.
Yeah, and provide great customer service, because then they're going to just like working with you and be happy that you provide more.
Absolutely. Everybody benefits from a good referral.
Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is a question about getting media coverage for your business.
When you're getting ready to launch your business, what's the right time to tell the press about it? Should you, when you know you're launching your business in 3 months, should you tell people then? Wait till you open the doors so you can time the press so that customers can see that and come right in, or some other timing?
You're shaking your head. You have an answer for this.
Well, it's funny. Entrepreneurs are so optimistic, and they always think their businesses are going to actually launch on time and have no problems, which usually isn't the case. So I actually advocate doing a soft launch, which means opening your business to like your friends and your family and your strategic partners first, get all the kinks worked out, and then do the big grand opening and alert the press, because I know they say, every press is good press, but for a new business, you want it to be really good press for you.
The good strategy about that is depending on your business, there might be some press outlet out there who wants an exclusive for your launch.
Yes.
But you don't want to launch with kinks. So you can make that soft launch go for as long as you want. You just have, if you have a website, beta on top of it, and you could, in essence, still be working. It could be the real launch, but publicly, it's just the soft launch.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. And that's part of having a larger PR strategy. I mean, I would recommend this entrepreneur really think about what the larger PR strategy is. Is it just to get tons of people on the launch date? Is that one piece of actually building your brand? Do you know where your audience is and how to reach them? If you start answering all those questions, you'll actually find that your timeline unfolds on its own, and then you can decide what to do what when and where to invest your time and resources.
The other thing to remember, too, is just because you meet a journalist who might be interested, might be not, doesn't mean they're going to write about it the next day.
That's right.
So at the very least, you could start developing relationships far out, and then, maybe a story will come at some point down the road. Okay, moving on to the next one. This is from Denise, who's writing about a business plan. She writes, is it appropriate to bring up the investment amount for your service or product in the executive summary? You help a lot of people write business plans for us, Dia. What do you think?
Absolutely. Definitely put it in there, but give it some context. So, for example, show what the proceeds are going to be used for, even very briefly. List if you have raised capital before, what the market size is, put projected revenues and expenses for 3 to 5 years. Give the potential investor some context so that they understand what an investment in you today is going to do to really create a fabulous return 2 to 3 years from now.
Sure, but that's going to be one of the first things they want to know is how much do you want from me, right?
Absolutely. I mean, yes, and yes, JJ. What do investors care about more than anything in your business plan? How they're going to get a return on their investment. So they need to know what you're asking for and what it's going to get them. That's the part that they're focused on, so make sure it's right up front.
Or else they'll be bored. They'll throw it out. They look at a lot of plans.
They sure do.
Okay, moving on to the next one. This is about alliances and mergers. A viewer writes, we're a very successful company. We're considering expanding and growing our company through a possible merger. We know that merging with another company creates greater synergy and opportunity for both companies. Should we start with a strategic alliance between the two companies first to find out if the two companies can successfully work together? You've done a lot of M&A work.
Yes, we've done a lot of M&A work, and M&A can create great synergies, and it can also create a lot of chaos and culture clash as well. So if there's a way to do a strategic alliance or a joint venture or a partnership, anything, do it. You always want to date someone before you get married. You never go on one date and get married unless you're in Vegas and there's a lot of alcohol involved. So I say if you can date them, go ahead and do that before you enter into that business marriage.
You agree?
I Depending on the context. Strategic alliances and mergers don't necessarily have to be part of the same conversation. And when I hear from an entrepreneur, I know it's going to work. My first question is, how do you know? What is it of the value of your business and their business that's really going to work? And have you thought through all the implications of it? This is a great time to call your lawyer and your accountant, because there could be financial, tax, intellectual property, other issues that are actually involved with both strategic alliances and mergers, and they can help you decide which one really may be the right way to go.
And the culture clash is so important, and particularly for small business owners. A lot of them are just used to running the show on their own terms, and then to suddenly have to answer to somebody else, even if you become partners.
Right. Well,
you're still answering to somebody else.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest companies sometimes have failed mergers. So when you have small companies,
we can list them.
Yeah. So you really have to be careful.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. I want to follow up on a question we actually had a few weeks ago about whether meeting with your competitors is a good thing or a bad thing. So I'm going to ask the panel, and actually, Jen, I want to ask this of you in particular, since you are an attorney. If you are meeting with a competitor, what do you have to be careful about talking about so you're not in violation of the Sherman Act? Obviously, you can't list all of the things, but what do you have to sort of be careful of?
So a quick primer on what the Sherman Act is. It's the cornerstone of American antitrust and competition law. And the federal government's basic premise is that they want to ensure free and open markets. So anything that takes away from that, such as collaboration in a way that is either price fixing or discussing market sharing or ways that give someone an unfair advantage, they frown on, and this is really bad. So if you talk about collaboration, things like joint ventures or standards organizations or other things that benefit the competitive nature of the market, that's really good. When you start talking about things that are going to give somebody an unfair advantage, call your attorney so that you can become educated on this.
I mean, it's interesting, right? You think about this as having pertaining to big companies, and you think if I'm just the corner laundromat, I'm probably not going to be in violation of the Sherman Act when I'm talking to the other laundromat down the street. But that's not necessarily true.
That's correct. And there's a kind of a bright line between what's considered collaboration and what's considered anti-competitive behavior. I highly recommend viewers to visit the Federal Trade Commission's website. They actually have a really good guide to competition law issues. In addition, of course, to talking to your attorney, as well, the website has a list of 25 competition issues or little fact sheets, and they can go through some of the common things that businesses of all sizes actually have to think about so that you can be careful.
Great. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Thank both of you for all of your advice today. We really, really appreciate it. Hope to see you back again. And if any of you out there have a question for our experts, all you have to do is go to our website. The address is openforum.com/yourbusiness. There, just hit the Ask the Show link to submit a question for our panel. Again, the website is openforum.com/yourbusiness. Or if you'd like, you can email us your questions and your comments. The address is yourbusiness@msnbc.com.